Hello, and welcome to this introduction to asset management. So this introduction is actually the first of a series of 6 videos that we've prepared to cover a lot of the aspects that is part of the asset management module in Dynamics 365. Today will be an introduction, and it will be mainly a presentation in PowerPoint, but I'll also show a few things in a demo environment. But in the coming 5 videos, there will also be some demo within the application. So the next videos will be around planned maintenance or preventive maintenance, how you can set that up and how you can process it. Video number 3 will be around unplanned or corrective maintenance, how you can handle that through maintenance requests and how you process those in asset management. In video number 4, I'll go over the more details regarding how you create the work orders, how you process the work orders using asset management as a module in FO or as using the mobile Power App. In video number 5, I'll go over some of the analysis tools and reports that are available for your follow-up on asset management. And finally, in video number 6, I'm going to go over how you can create and follow up on your maintenance budget and how you can actually use the maintenance budget to simulate if you change your setup for your maintenance, your planned maintenance, how would that affect your maintenance budget? But let's get started. In this particular video, I'm going to go over some of the key concepts that we have in asset management. I'll briefly touch on the planned and unplanned maintenance, and I'll also display some of the things that you need to know about the work order and a few of the history and analysis tools. And then finally today in this video, I'll also talk a bit about how you can figure out if it's worth it for you to implement it. What are the benefits? What are the things that you need to be aware of when you start out on asset management? So first of all, asset management is a standard module in Dynamics 365, and it's developed specifically for maintaining your assets. It is related to fixed asset, but it is a module in itself and handles the maintenance as opposed to the fixed asset module, which handles more like the depreciation of your assets and the value of your assets. The functionality is quite wide, but of course you need to be able to register and set up your assets and where they are located. It also includes the spare part management. Of course, you need functionality for handling your planned and unplanned maintenance. You need to be able to manage and process your work orders and plan for your maintenance workers. That's also part of the module. And it also includes the ability to create and follow up on your maintenance budget, and it includes quite a lot of history and analysis tools right out of the box. So with this figure, I would like to give an overview of some of the concepts that you have if you decide to use pretty much everything that is in asset management. So if we look at the first column, that's very much about the setup and how you manage. So you have an asset register, you have some locations, you need to set up your spare parts, you set up your maintenance plans, you set up your workers. And as I briefly mentioned, it is related to your fixed assets or can be related to fixed assets. Not all assets are fixed assets, but some may also be a fixed asset. In the middle part is more about the things that you need to process on a daily basis. So that's regarding handling the requests for maintenance or repair. It's handling the work orders, the checklist registration, registration of which spare part you're using, and stuff like that. And the spare part is deeply related to the standard inventory module in Dynamic 365. And then in the third column, we have all the follow-up tools. So that's actually quite an extensive module with lots of possibilities if you decide to use it fully. But that might be a big chunk to start out with. So what we often see is that in order just to get started, can we start with a limited functionality? And yes, that is possible. So the minimum I would recommend if you want to get started with asset management is that of course you need your asset register, you need your locations. I'll recommend to set up maintenance plans to be able to handle planned maintenance. And if you do that, some clients say, well, we might have a physical spare parts register, but maybe we're not quite ready to do a full inventory handling of our spare parts. Then you can simply leave that out and implement it at a later stage. I'll also recommend that you start using the request for maintenance and the work orders and as a minimum. And if you want to be able to do planned maintenance on the actual usage of your equipment, then I'll also recommend that you do counter registrations. And counters in this area is counters related to, for instance, runtime hours or quantities produced or mileage, something that you can use to calculate when will we expect that the next planned maintenance work order should be created. And if you do that as a minimum, then you will also be able to get the full asset history. You will be able to do budget and cost control, and you will also be able to do a maintenance budget. So this is just to tell you that it's possible to start with asset management with some limited functionality. So asset management is related to locations and assets. So the locations are places where you have your assets located. It's a mandatory thing you have to set up. But again, if you just want to start out very simple and you only have pretty much one place where you have your assets, then you can simply just create one location. But typically what you would have is that you might have a structure already where you have your sites or your areas, your production lines, and then you would set those up as locations. The assets are the physical equipment that you have that you want to do maintenance for. And typically that could be like production machines, it could be types of equipment that you use. It could also be vehicles, forklifts. And for instance, in the energy industry, it could be large assets like windmills or other types of physical assets where you do recurring maintenance and repair. Assets can be linked to a production resource for planning purposes. You don't have to do that, but it's a possibility. And you can assign counters to trigger planned maintenance based on the actual use of your assets. So it could be kilometers or mileage, it could be runtime hours, it could be produced quantities and stuff like that. Just this one, I'm just going to dive into the application to just show you the location and asset register. So if we go in the application, first of all, you can see here in Dynamic 365, you have the asset management module, and it's organized like any other module where you have some workspaces, you have some list pages, you have the ability to do inquiries, you have reports, periodic jobs, and of course the setup. So it's a standard module like any other module that you have in Dynamic 365. But for now, let's just have a look at the active assets. So these are my active assets, and you can see here in this case, they are all production machines, but it could be other types of assets. And let me just open one of these. It could be like a mixer that you have in your production. And you can also see here that we have quite a lot of information that we can put in on the asset. But in this introduction, I'm just going to show you a few of those. So first of all, we can see here that this is a mixer. It has an ID, it has a name, it has a type. So it makes you possible, it enables you to organize your assets by type. And it's located on a particular location, in this case, in my production. Down here, I have the ability to assign it or link it to a resource. And this is a standard resource in Dynamic 365. In this case, it will be a production resource. And the purpose of that is that if I plan maintenance for that particular asset, then I'll actually do capacity reservations on the resource, which means that that will also be taken into account when I do my production planning and vice versa. I also have the ability to link it to a fixed asset, but not all assets need to be linked to a fixed asset. You might have equipment where it's not a fixed asset because it might be quite cheap, but you still want to be able to do maintenance. So you can have assets which are not fixed assets. I also have here, if I look at the asset, I have the related or the fact boxes. So I can see here, for instance, if I have any active maintenance requests, I can see here if I have any active work orders. I can also see here the event history. So the event history is basically a log of key events that have happened on the asset over time. So this will tell me every time I've moved my asset, every time it changes its status, every time I create a request, every time I create a work order. So that's the log that you can pull out when you go out to do maintenance on this one. Then you can pull out this event history or the log and see what has been done on the asset over time previously. Let's go back to the presentation. So once we've set up our assets, we need to set up the maintenance plan. The maintenance plan is the key concept for handling preventive or planned maintenance. And there are two ways you can set it up. You can set it up based on fixed time intervals. For instance, this job that needs to be done annually or monthly or every Friday. And these always come on a periodic basis. But we also have the possibility on the maintenance plan to set it up based on usage. So, and this is handled through the counters. You can have a mileage counter, you can have an hour counter, you can have a quantity counter, and based on the counter value, the system can then automatically create proposals for maintenance or project when we expect the next 1,000 hour service is due. The maintenance plan are always assigned to assets. It can also be assigned to a location, but in most cases it will be assigned to your assets. And once you've set that up, the plan automatically creates work orders or work order proposals. This is an example of a maintenance plan. And basically, the maintenance plan tells the system what needs to be done and with what frequency. So in this example, I have 4 types of maintenance job that needs to be carried out. I have a cleaning job, and you can see here, this is time-based, and it happens every 1 month. So this is a monthly cleaning job. I also have a time-based inspection, which is every 1 year. So it's an annual inspection job. And then I have some service jobs. So in this case, the service jobs are related to the number of hours it's been running. So I have a 1,000 hour service and I have a 3,000 hour service, which could be like an extended service. And then down here, we set up which assets are included in this plan. Once we've done the setup, there's a job that automatically creates work order proposals. So based on this setup, we can see here that we have some monthly cleaning jobs coming up for our forklifts and with expected date. So that's the setup, and that's what the system will create for you. Once we have the work order proposals, we can then, based on those proposals, we can create work orders. And there's a possibility to group these. So for instance, I can choose and to select all my work order proposals, and then I can create work orders. And as you can see here, when I create the work orders, I can group them. So for instance, I can say I would like to group them by asset type or by asset or by maintenance job type. And then I simply press OK, and then I have created the work orders. I'll always recommend to have this step in between to use the work order proposals. It is possible for the system to automatically create the work orders, but especially in the implementation period, in a startup period, I'll always recommend to have the work order proposals first, have a look at them, see if it looks right, and simply select all of them and create all the work orders at once. Unplanned maintenance or corrective maintenance, there's this particular workspace to handle that, where you, for instance, in this workspace, you can see which active maintenance requests I have. I can see which maintenance requests have been created since yesterday, and I can create a new maintenance request. And the way that I see it is that anyone should be able to create a request. So it doesn't only have to be maintenance worker. It could also be production workers or other types of workers that actually have access to the assets on a daily basis, and let them report the problems in. And the reason for that is that if you have that, then you have a systematic or structured way of handling things that come in, as opposed to having post-its or mails. Then let people create the request, and then it's up to the maintenance supervisor or the maintenance manager to decide what they want to do about it. And typically what they will evaluate is, does this require me to convert it into a work order or simply reject it? So for instance, if multiple workers have put in the same request, then I can reject the ones that are duplicates. Or maybe I know that this particular asset is due for an overhaul or service, then you can also reject a request for maintenance. Maintenance requests can be created through the workspace. And when you create it, you put in information like which asset are we talking about, what's the problem, who created it. And I can also put in some notes, what's the problem. I can add some pictures describing the problem. This also makes it possible for me to have a lot of information ready for me when I need to create the work order. So again, I'll recommend to use that. The request can also be created directly from the mobile app. So if you're using the mobile app and you're out physically on a site, then and you have the mobile app with you, then you can simply create the request directly from your mobile app, and then it will automatically be transferred to your asset management module in Dynamics 365. The actual maintenance is processed through work orders. And again, there's a workspace for handling work orders. You can see here my active work orders. I can see which one are delayed. I can see which one has unscheduled. I also can manually create a work order. So again, through this is my go-to workspace to get an overview of my work orders. There are 3 ways you can create a work order. You can create it from a maintenance request. So once you have the maintenance request, you can simply convert it into a work order. I also showed you a few slides back that when you have the maintenance plans, from there you can create work order proposals, and then these work order proposals can be converted into work orders. Or you can simply manually create a work order if you have the security role that allows you to do that. When you create a work order, it always contains an expected start and end date. They can be calculated automatically, but you can also edit them. If you set up a forecast, for instance, for a forecast for how many hours do you typically expect this job to take, then those forecasts will be copied automatically from your standard setup. And again, you can edit them. If it's a repair job, you might need to adjust the expected hours or the expected spare parts that are needed for you to do this particular work order. And then you dispatch it or you schedule it to a specific worker. I'll get into a lot more details on the work orders in video number 4. The work order can be executed or processed in the asset management module in Dynamics 365 or using the specifically designed mobile power app that's been developed specifically for processing work orders. Some of the things that's part of processing a work order is typically a work order might have a checklist. That would often be the case if it's a service job or an inspection job. You can register your actual hours, your actual spare part consumption, and register that, and then that will automatically be posted in Dynamics 365. So that will give us the cost that for doing our work orders. You can upload photos, you can add remarks or notes. If you want to use the full utilization of asset management, you can also register your faults and your remedies. How did you fix this problem? And this is, of course, for statistics and follow-up. You can also, through asset management, do downtime registration. If you do that, the system is able to calculate KPIs for you, like mean time between failure, availability. But again, it requires that you do your registrations. You can also do your registration of your counter values, for instance, a reading of the runtime hours or a reading of the mileage, which will then be used for projecting the next coming work order. You can also update the work order status. The work order status is used to process and say, this is a new work order. Now it's in progress. Now it's completed, or maybe it's on hold. And those status is something that you can define yourself, which makes sense in your company. And furthermore, you can see related jobs on the same asset. So if you're on the site, you're doing a work order, you can actually look if there are any related jobs on the same asset now that you're out there anyway. I'll get back to this in much more details in video number 4. If we've done all the registrations, then the system will give us quite a lot of history analytics right out of the box. You can get the full history, you can follow up on your costs, and there are some analytics tools also available. This one I already showed you when I had a demo in the system. This is the asset event history or the asset log, which displays everything that's been done on the asset over time. And these are created or logged automatically. The system also provides a cost control. There are actually quite multiple of cost controls This one is specifically related to assets. And as you can see here, I have my different types of asset, and I have my different types of jobs. And then I can see here the cost that I have. These two columns displays the budget or the forecasted cost that I had, and these are my actual costs. And my actual costs are then, I can see the proportion on the preventive versus corrective costs, respectively. And up here, you can decide how you would like to group it. So in this case, I've decided to group it by asset type. I could also have grouped it by asset, or I could group it by month or quarter, and I can group it by job types. I can also group it by transaction type. Transaction type in this case could be like my hourly consumption, the costs that I have for my workforce, and my spare part consumption. Again, very, very powerful tool as I see it. I'll get a lot back to all of these tools in video number 5. And this is just a few examples on the analytics that is provided by Microsoft out of the box, where you have some graphs, you have some insights. So in this case, for instance, I can see that 66% of my work is actually unplanned work. Maybe that I think that's a bit too high, and then I can dive down and say, okay, how come that so much of my work is actually unplanned work? It's not necessarily a goal in itself to have 100% planned work, but you might have a goal that you would like, for instance, to have that only 30% of the work should be unplanned work. And what I can also see here is, for instance, that the wrapper number 1 is the most frequently repaired asset. So again, a lot of tools available right out of the box, just ready for you to use. The last thing I wanted to go into is this: is it worth it? Sometimes there are a lot of modules in Dynamics 365, and it might be a bit of a hurdle to get over that and say, okay, should we start with the asset management? And to help you to do that decision, we've actually developed some tools which would make it easier for you to try to do some calculation, because every time you decide to utilize a new module in Dynamics 365, it comes with implementation costs. You need to put your work into it. You need to assign workers and hours to implement it. But what we can also help you with is to define what are the benefits that you might be able to achieve when you do this. And we'll be happy to go over discussions with you on this, and be happy to help you to calculate some of these. So if you want any more insights, if you want us to set up a demo or answer some questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And if you want to look at all the videos, please go to our AlfaPeople website and look for the webinars. Thank you very much for your time.